explainer. Today, we're diving into a complete paradigm shift on how we break bad habits. You know the drill, right? We spend so much of our lives just gritting our teeth, relying on the stressful, white-knuckle willpower to change our behavior. Whether you're trying to drop a few pounds or finally kick that smoking habit, it's exhausting. But what if that whole approach is just backwards? Today, we're exploring the Silva mind control method, and we're going to move away from that exhausting struggle of willpower and step right into the gentle, profound power of your own imagination. I know, it sounds a little harsh, doesn't it? Are you deceiving yourself? But really think about it. The source material points out something kind of mind-blowing. If you truly, deep down, wanted to give up a habit, well, it would just fade away on its own. But what usually happens is that we focus so intensely on the deprivation, on the exact thing we're trying not to do, that we end up binding ourselves even tighter to it. It's literally like firmly resolving to go to sleep. The sheer anxiety of trying so hard is exactly what keeps you tossing and turning all night. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why that happens. This quote from Emile Coué perfectly sets up our core premise today. Listen to this. Willpower actually needs an enemy to fight. It requires a struggle. But your imagination? Your imagination just seizes directly on the end goal. When you pit sheer discipline against the vivid, deeply ingrained images in your imagination, no contest. The imagination is going to win every single time. So here's our roadmap for today. We're covering willpower versus imagination, the mental screen technique, visualizing weight loss success, the former smoker strategy, and finally, maintaining your new reality.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, willpower versus imagination.
Okay, so let's really look at why our traditional approach is just fundamentally flawed. The absolutely crucial point here is shifting your mindset. See, the willpower mindset, it's entirely focused on what you're giving up. You're constantly thinking about that slice of cake you can't eat or the cigarette you can't smoke. The imagination mindset completely flips the script. You stop focusing on the loss, and instead, you build this overwhelming, undeniable desire for the concrete benefits you're going to gain. Focus so clearly on the upside that the habit itself just becomes completely irrelevant.
The source text actually uses this fantastic, kind of hilarious analogy. It says willpower tries to act like a tough guy, but the moment life gets complicated, the minute things get rocky, it turns into a total cream puff. It just crumbles under pressure. And honestly, that proves we need a gentler, easier way to reprogram our behavior, right? We need a system that doesn't demand we be totally invincible to stress 24/7.
Moving on to section 2, the mental screen technique.
Now that we get why imagination absolutely crushes willpower, let's look at the exact mental tool you're going to use to harness it. This is the absolute core of the Silva method for habits. Basically, you go into a deep meditative level of mind. Step 1, project an image of your current self onto your mental screen. Just acknowledge where you're at. Step 2, let that current image completely disappear, fade to black. And step 3, this is the game changer. Slide an image of your future successful self onto the screen from the left, which represents the future. This is absolutely crucial because by running this specific 3-step sequence at a deep mental level, you bypass all your conscious resistance and wire in your new reality directly.
Next up, section 3, visualizing weight loss success.
Let's see how this actually works in practice, specifically for a struggle-free weight loss journey. To make this mental screen really work, you can't just vaguely wish to drop a few pounds. You've got to vividly engage all 5 senses. For sight, grab an old photograph of your thinner self if you have one. For touch, imagine exactly how smooth your arms and stomach are going to feel. Really taste and smell those specific, healthy, nutritious foods you'll be eating. And for hearing, listen to the compliments rolling in from your friends and family. You combine those 5 senses with this huge emotion of elation, all while completely ignoring the junk food. Seriously, not one single thought of the bad stuff is allowed on this screen.
And hey, this isn't just theory. Hollywood actress Alexis Smith was actually interviewed back in 1974 talking about using this exact method, which is pretty wild. She used these Silva techniques to find balance, and people kept telling her she looked even more radiant than she did back in her classic Warner Brothers movies. She credited it 100% to focusing purely on what she was getting, rather than obsessing over what she was giving up.
The everyday results we see in the text are just profoundly real. Take this Omaha factory worker. He used his meditation time to focus on desiring only foods that fueled his body. Suddenly, he drops 40 pounds over 4 months simply because his craving for high-calorie stuff just vanished. Or this woman in Ames, Iowa, who went to the bakery to get donuts for her kids, and literally forgot to buy any for herself. She almost cried when she realized the mental control actually worked. And a Mason City farmer dropped 45 pounds and finally fit back into a $150 suit that used to be a terrible fit. Eating healthy just became this effortless, automatic desire.
Let's put some hard numbers to this. Caroline DeSandre ran a workshop in Denver to test this exact method. Out of 15 people who finished the month-long program, the average weight loss was about 4.5 pounds. But here's the kicker, the 1-month follow-up. 7 people kept losing weight, 8 held steady, and 0, literally 0, gained it back. And get this, Caroline reported it was a totally joyous experience for them. No agonizing hunger pangs whatsoever.
All right, let's pivot to section 4, the former smoker strategy.
Okay, so sensory visualization is key for weight loss. Now let's tweak that approach for something even tougher, quitting smoking. Since smoking is such an intense, deeply ingrained physical habit, the text really stresses that you should not rush this. You do not want to punish your body. Instead, use your mental screen to vividly visualize yourself feeling totally at ease as a former smoker, but only in tiny 1-hour increments. Say you usually have your first cigarette at 7:30 in the morning. Visualize yourself happily going about your morning between 7:30 and 8:30, just minus the cigarette. Once you're comfortable with that single hour of freedom, you extend it to the next hour. Nice and easy.
Now, if you want an even stronger, more dramatic impact, you can dial up the intensity of the visualization. There's this story of an Omaha man, a pack-and-a-half-a-day smoker for 8 years. He went into his deep meditation and pictured this massive heap of every single cigarette he had ever smoked. Then, he imagined shoving them all into a giant incinerator and burning them entirely to ash. Basically, he completely obliterated his past identity as a smoker. But he didn't stop there. Next, he visualized a second giant mound, this one made up of all the cigarettes he would have smoked in the future if he hadn't quit. And he gleefully chucked all of those into the incinerator too. By gleefully destroying his future cigarettes in his mind, this guy permanently quit his habit after just one single session. The text specifically notes he had absolutely zero cravings, didn't overeat to compensate, and had zero side effects. Just completely done.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Maintaining Your New Reality.
To wrap up this explainer, we really need to talk about real-world tactics, because how do you maintain this when you're just out running around on a busy Tuesday? The method gives you specific physical triggers. By simply bringing 3 fingers together, you can instantly cue your brain to recall that calm, focused state from your deep meditations. If you're dieting, use that exact moment to remind yourself your new diet is providing exactly what your body needs. Boom, hunger pangs gone. If you're quitting smoking and catch yourself reaching for a pack, ask yourself, do I genuinely want this right now? You'd be surprised how often the answer is no. You can also constantly switch up your cigarette brands to break the automatic routine, and literally force yourself to wait until you truly crave it. You're letting your newly upgraded imagination effortlessly override your old physical urges. And that brings us to the end of our explainer. You now have the exact tools to stop fighting your habits with exhausting willpower and to start actually visualizing your freedom. The mental screen, the multi-sensory visualizations, the 1-hour increments, these are incredibly powerful, proven techniques. So the only question left for you is, where are you going to direct this massive mental power today? What bad habit will your imagination conquer first?